Hello, friends, and welcome to a frankly perfect fall day edition of the Happy Half Hour.
I walked outside this morning to water my plants because I didn't do it last night before I went to bed. And so I had to go outside this morning to do it. And it felt so nice and crisp. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to put on a sweater. Like, this is so exciting.
That's right. You're probably already on the pumpkin spice, aren't you?
See, you know what's funny is I like the pumpkin spice vibe and aura, but I don't actually drink pumpkin spice coffees because they are too sweet. But give me a pumpkin spice bread or a pumpkin pie, and I'll do that all day. Not in a coffee.
You know what says fall to me?
What?
A nice lemonade-flavored vodka by our friends at Deep Eddy. And speaking of which, this episode...
That was flawless.
This episode of the Happy Half Hour is brought to you by our friends at Deep Eddy. You too, friends, can be part of the Deep Eddy Happy Half Hour family by entering the Deep Eddy Vodka Sweet Sip Sweepstakes. Get your entry in. Create your perfect craft cocktail using these fine products. And enter before October 26th for a chance to win not one but two tickets to the New Orleans Saints game on November 9th, access to the One Carolina Suite and the Deep Eddy Suite with all the cool swag and craft cocktails and good times and good vibes. And you never know, we might just stick our head in and greet you before that game since we are such big fans of their product and the fact that they sponsor us here at the Happy Half Hour. So,
what would a Darin Gant meet and greet look like?
Oh, it would be quite the event, social occasion. I think security would have to be called for either me or them, one way or the other. But, get your entries in by October 26th. Join us here. Hopefully the lucky winners can join us here at Bank of America Stadium for that game on November the 9th, and which will also be a perfect fall afternoon because the sun always shines at Bank of America Stadium. And we get to stay here for another week. It's so
nice.
It's so cool. I don't know how to act. I'm kind of I'm a little bit shaken at the idea of 2 weeks in a row at home. So
I think especially because the three of the first four were on the road.
That was rough.
So it was just plane after plane after plane. And so, getting 2 weeks at home feels luxurious. And then 1 week away, and then we're right back at home.
That's right. All good things happen here at Bank of America Stadium. Your Carolina Panthers are 2-0 in this building. Mm-hmm. And, we talked about the Miami game a lot on Monday. One of the things that's impressed me about this team in the last couple of days is how utterly normal this week has been. I mean, it's just been kind of a regular thing. There's some guys dealing with injuries who are rehabbing and aren't necessarily practicing. But on the whole, everything is kind of operating as if, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like. And there were so many things in practice yesterday. The operation stuff is all the same. Chuba Hubbard is getting a little better. He's still – stay tuned to Panthers.com for all the latest on the injury reports. But Chuba's dealing with that calf injury, and we don't know if he's going to be able to go this week. But he's obviously feeling better because when Chuba's feeling good, a couple of things happen. Number one, he shows up on the practice field about an hour before anybody else. Corey Thornton tries to beat him out there, and he always fails. He did it one time, and Chuba has determined to never be caught short again. So Chuba will be out there an hour before practice starts. DL will be crawling on the floor on his belly like an Army man to stay out of our shot. And Chuba will go stretch with the defensive guys, and he just gets in the middle of them, and he's talking trash and getting everybody pumped up. So even though he's not practicing, you can kind of feel that vibe.
Right. And when Chuba's out there, they all kind of respond because he pushes them so much further. We had a great video on our Carolina Panthers YouTube page this week of Bryce Young mic'd up during that Dolphins win. And you saw even at the very beginning of it, it was Chuba in street clothes and his beanie because he wasn't playing, but he was still in the middle of the locker room making sure everybody was ready to go, making sure everybody knew what the goal of the day was. So you want Chuba, and then he went up to Bryce, I think, before the game and was like, I'm going to be here cheering for you on the sidelines.
Right.
Like, I got you. And so that's what Chuba brings to this team, even when he's not playing. It's impactful.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not here to pick on any other members of the media, but I had a lot of questions yesterday to Chuba and Rico Dowdle, who, congratulations, Rico Dowdle, your NFC Offensive Player of the Week for that 206-yard rushing.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, it just so many.
And Angry Runs.
And Angry Runs, so many awards. All of your awards belong to Rico Dowdle this week. And so there were a lot of questions to both Rico and Chuba about, well, what happens when you're both healthy? And Chuba literally looked at people like they had two heads. He was like, that doesn't even, I don't think like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to answer that because I just don't think that way. Chuba's been around here, whether it was Christian McCaffrey and Chuba, whether it was Deontay Foreman and Chuba, whether it was Chuba and somebody else or Chuba and Rico Dowdle. Chuba just knows that it takes multiple dudes to be around. And, when he had such a successful season last year, it was Miles Sanders who jumped in the finale at Atlanta and scored that game-winning touchdown in overtime. So he knows, A, it's hard to play 17 games in the NFL because football is hard, and B, you can find plenty of work for a couple of running backs over the course of a season.
Speaking of Miles, we'll get to see our old friend this weekend.
That's right.
He's in Dallas. But
nothing but good things to say about Miles.
Exactly. Great guy to have around. To come and go back to Chuba and Rico, like, people are probably going to roll their eyes in their car listening to me say this because I feel like
not, because that would be dangerous while you were driving.
To roll your eyes?
Yeah, or watch video while you're driving.
You have very high standards.
Please be safe. Yes, I do, and I'm not going to apologize for them.
The point being, I know I've said this already, and I've said it, I think, even already this week, but I'm going to say it again. Like, Chuba and Rico are two very, very different running backs. You can find a way to implement both of them into an offense. You can find a way to implement them and Trevor Etienne. I know we're going to talk about this later on in the episode, but I went back and watched Week 6 of 2015 for our Throwback Thursday. And there was a play at one point where it was 4 people in the backfield. It was Cam Newton and what I can only assume were 3 running backs. And
it's probably Stu, Mike Tolbert, and Fozzie Whitaker.
That sounds about right. And so I took note of it because I was like, there's like a whole crowd back there. There's a committee.
Much running.
And all of that to say, like, when you have the talent to do it, and you've got coaches say it all the time. It sounds like coach speak, but they really do mean it. It's about getting the best 11 on the field. And if Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle are 2 of your best 11, you'll put them out there together, or you'll trade them off. And I know there's something to be said for letting running backs work up a lather. But to your point, there's also 17 games in a season.
No doubt.
Sometimes you just need to, like, tie your shoelace and get a bottle of water and switch off. And, again, 2 very, very different styles. And so they can complement each other. They're not pulling from each other.
Yeah, no doubt. And, again, a lot of this stuff tends to take care of itself. Again, we'll check out the injury report later this afternoon on Panthers.com to see what Chuba does today. But the fact that he wasn't practicing yesterday, maybe – I don't know. We'll see what he does the rest of the week. But, Rico might have to do this thing by himself again this week. And to your point, it's not really by yourself because he kind of mixed in that 2/3 of the snap space where Chuba had always been with Trevor Etienne, with even a little DJ Dallas. And by the way, DJ Dallas is on my list. I talked to him last week for a story I'm sure you all read on Panthers.com about him being a special teams player par excellence. But DJ kind of got on my list because he said, I always consider myself old school.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, DJ, who do you consider old school? He's like, I like safeties that would come up and hit you. Old school guys like Sean Taylor and Bob Sanders.
The funniest part of this, Matt, is that when Darin told me this story, I said, isn't Sean Taylor an old player?
Well, Sean Taylor, God rest his soul, is no longer among us, but he was playing in the 2000s.
Alabama great.
So it's a little hard for me to see guys who were drafted after I had children born who are, now referred to as old school players. I was hoping maybe he would give me a Ronnie Lott or maybe even a Troy Polamalu maybe, but no.
Troy Polamalu's been playing more recently.
No, I mean
Sean Taylor, right?
No, Troy's Troy's a Hall of Famer now, but the point is I'm 100 years old. And anyway, that's a long way to get back around to DJ Dallas. Yes. I mean, even if Chuba's not out there this week, it's not going to be all Rico. And,
although I think Rico would be happy to take all the snaps this week.
No question. He's seeing his old friends in Dallas, and him and Brian Schottenheimer have gotten each other's attention over the last couple of days. This is the most benign set of trash talk or bulletin board material I think I've ever heard in my
respectful.
life because they both love each other. So that's going to be a big thing to watch. I mean, I think, to me, one of those big takeaways from last week's game was how normal this offense can be when you're running the ball that way. And it doesn't have to be a 200-yard game. I mean, just the amount of running, keeping guys in phase. so that everything else works well around it. Again, that's going to depend on Chuba's status. We're also keeping an eye on Taylor Moton. Tershawn Wharton did not practice yesterday, along with Caleb Evans, special teamer, cornerback. He's out yesterday on the injury report, so we'll see how some of that stuff goes. But as they go into this Dallas game, I think the big headline for a lot of people is going to be that number 1 ranked Dallas offense against a defense that's really made strides over the last 5 weeks.
I mean, hey, you're just facing, the second-ranked quarterback in the NFL right now in terms of passing yards. There is something to be said, full picture. Let's take it. Let's look at the full picture. Some of that yardage does come because Dallas's defense is giving up a lot of points. So they're getting into shootouts, and they know they're going to have to outscore the opponent. That being said,
we are familiar with that pattern here.
And so there is something to be said for, your quarterback's going to have a lot more yards if you're out there throwing a lot of go balls to try to stay in or get back into the game versus just running it to run down the clock. That being said, Dak Prescott is playing at full peak Dak Prescott level. He is just playing lights out right now. This is everything, if you're a Cowboys fan, everything you want out of Dak when, he's had injuries that have taken him off the field and made the last few years kind of up and down. But right now he is clicking along at exactly the level you want Dak Prescott to be playing at. He's seeing the field well. He's getting it downfield. He's using his legs he's a big guy. So you look at him and immediately think, oh, he could scramble and run because he can, knock people over. He doesn't do that unless he absolutely has to. He moves just to kind of keep downfield. I think he's only scrambled 4 or 5 times this year, if I'm remembering correctly. But when he does run and they used a quarterback draw on a touchdown not too long ago for him. When he does do that, it's like he's reminding the players on defense, oh, yeah, I am bigger than you still, and I'm the one with the ball in my hand. Great quarterback, playing at a high level. It'll be a fun challenge because this defense has really improved, like you said, over the past 5 weeks. They've shot up every measurable category on defense from what they were last year. Now you get to put it to the test against a really good quarterback. I know CeeDee Lamb's on the sideline, but George Pickens is still out there. And, a really good running back in Williams as well.
Yeah, and Javante's a guy a lot of people around here know really well. They are a test, but in talking about getting back to a normal kind of pattern for the Carolina Panthers, having that kind of defense that can win a game for you is playing at a high level. We were scarred by watching last year, and last year got away from them with all the injuries and so many replacements and new people coming in and all that kind of stuff. And it was not normal by any stretch of the imagination. But now the Carolina Panthers, I've heard so many friends and neighbors just talking about the game in the last week saying, man, that was like old school Panthers football. And by old school Panthers football, they actually mean old, going back to the 90s or early 2000s. And it was eye-opening for me to kind of pick up a stat sheet this week and see the Carolina Panthers 12th in the league in total defense. And that's not, it's 12th in a 32-team league. It's above average. It's pretty good, not great. And those guys will all say, we want to get better at all these things. But after going through last season and seeing 32s in all those categories a year ago, seeing how much ground they have covered in 5 weeks has been amazing. Obviously, having Derek Brown back is a big part of that, but they added in so many people to stabilize that front. I think the biggest thing for me is you bring in a Tershawn Wharton who's been in and out of the lineup with injuries, but you've got an Ashawn Robinson who doesn't have to play every single snap the way he did last year as like the last man standing. And you've got Derek Brown coming back, and you've got Bobby Brown, and you've got LeBron Ray coming back last week to add to that mix. And it's just so much more stable, and plays aren't beginning 3 yards downfield the way they were tail end of last year. That, to me, has been the biggest difference. And then you see Trevin Wallace, Christian Roseboom. They flipped. Trevin's calling defense now, and Roseboom was running around playing free. A better graded defense from front to back. And that's the way Dan Morgan designed this thing this offseason. That's the way he built it. So it's just kind of wild, and it shouldn't be because that was very intentional. That was very much their plan. But having witnessed last year and lived through it, to see how much better things are right now is still kind of impressive.
a moment on Turk Wharton, because I know you mentioned him. You can read this story, too, on Panthers.com.
There's another point.
But Turk, by this Thursday of last week, Turk pretty much knew he wasn't going to be playing versus the Dolphins. So I think it says a lot that he took it upon himself to kind of pull the rush group together. That not even just the pass rushers, but the defensive line as well. He pulled those guys together after Thursday's practice and essentially was like, hey, like 2 sacks in 4 games, that's unacceptable. Like, get after the quarterback.
Right.
Get in there, rush the quarterback, do better. And he applied that to himself as well for when he is out there. But he was like, guys, we've got, like, we're better than this. Mm-hmm. Granted, I like to say it should be like 2 and then parentheses, like 3.5, because DJ Wanham got accounted for a tackle for loss on Kyler Murray that has also, some stat keepers would count it as a sack, some as a tackle for loss. That being said, it was still 2 sacks during 4 games. And Turk was basically just like, we're better than this. We've got to prove it. They go out there on Sunday against the Dolphins, and they get 3 sacks, including essentially a game winner from Pat Jones. Mm-hmm. And so what does that do now? Next week, can they carry it over? That's going to be the question. But huge improvement from that front last week. And credit to Turk for kind of taking that responsibility role and being the one to stand up and say something.
Yeah, they've got some adults on that defense. Mm-hmm. Even though they signed young free agents, most of those guys 25, 26 years old walking in the door rather than signing a bunch of old heads. But Turk Wharton's got old head energy. Mm-hmm. He's been around championship teams in Kansas City, and he just kind of carries himself as a guy with that gravity. Obviously, Derek and Ashawn do too. So they've got a real stable base for all those young guys. And you've seen Nick and Princely take strides. I think we're just going to end up calling them Nick and Princely.
Yeah,
that's their name.
Like a buddy cop show.
Exactly. And we'll just be saying that for the next 4 years. Those guys came here as pass rushers. Nick's obviously a little more of an every down player, but you saw each of them step up last week, too, playing run defense. I mean, Princely Emmanuel and making plays in the run game is not anything that was on the bingo card maybe at the beginning of the year, but you've just seen that's another sign of that continued improvement as the defense as a whole. But, yeah, getting that pass rush was key. Ajero Evero talked about that today during his press conference. He was like, Darren Waller goes from 5 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown in the first half to 5 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown for the entire game because they were getting after Tua a little bit. They were hurrying Tua. He wasn't able to find that spot in the deep middle that he was finding early in the game. So just another sign of that defensive improvement all the way around as all those things start to come together and all these new people. I mean, that's the thing that's not lost on me watching this team week after week is all of these dudes are brand new. You go back to the Atlanta game to close last season, and there are only 3 dudes who started that game on defense who are even still still starting. I mean, there were some other guys who backed up that game and different things, but Mike Jackson, DJ Wanham, and Ashawn are the only dudes who started that game and are still starting on this team. So they've churned this thing. There's a lot of new coming together, and it's coming together pretty well. So we look forward to Sunday. Big game against Cowboys. Big game. You know how you can tell it's a big game? Our old friend Greg Olson.
Oh, yeah, he's on the call.
Greg Olson's on the call. Friend of the program, Greg Olson. It may not have always been that way, but thanks to our friend J.J. Jansen for brokering that piece. Me and Greg are in a good place now.
Speaking of J.J. Jansen, we're coming in from practice yesterday. J.J. is trying to convince Sam Martin and I, because I usually come in when they come in. That's my cue for the time.
Yep.
And that he was trying to convince us to buy up all these tickets because the Checkers is about to have their season opener.
Uh-huh.
And Sam was like, how much is a ticket going to cost me if I want like on the glass, exclusive meet and greet, free beer the whole time? And JJ was like, I don't know, $60. And I was like, JJ, what do I have to pay to let me drop the puck at the beginning of the game? And he was like, I think you just have to know the right person, like me. And I was like, okay, let's put it out here then. I think that means J.J. Jansen told me I could drop the puck at a Checkers game.
Yeah, when the Checkers were in the Calder Cup finals last year, me and a buddy went to one of the games, and J.J.'s just being a good owner, and J.J.'s a minority owner in the Charlotte Checkers, in case you did not know. But
I guess I just assumed everybody knew where we were coming from.
JJ just is wandering around the stadium, and I get a text, and he's like, hey, where are you sitting? And I tell him where my seats are. And JJ just wanders up and hangs out and sits in in the bleachers. So it's always cool. And with those guys getting started again, we'll get more hockey content from JJ. I'm going to use that influence. I would like to drive the Zamboni.
That might be a better one than drop the puck.
I don't want the ceremonial, riding shotgun on the Zamboni.
You want to actually drive it.
I want to actually drive it. And I want to, drive it around in the parking lot. Maybe I can drive it home. So
I think it only works on ice.
I don't know. It's got tires. We'll see.
Okay.
But we'll work on the Zamboni later. But, yes, our old friend Greg Olson will be back in the building, so it'll be a big game. You saw plenty of Greg Olson if you watched that Seattle game from 2015, didn't you?
Our Throwback Thursday last week, 2015, was on a bye week, so Kassidy was on a bye week for Throwback Thursday. This week, they were at Seattle. First off, just first note, this is such a girl note, this was such an aesthetically pleasing uniform game. Just such fun colors, but not, over the top. I loved it.
Not like Seahawks highlighter green.
Exactly. This was like the Seahawks, navy blue with the highlighter green, touch points on it. It was really nice. For a large portion of this game, it was all defense. This was two top-notch defenses, and, they swarmed, buddy. You always talk about, or you hear defenses saying, we need to swarm to the ball. Go watch the 2015 Week 6 Panthers at Seattle game to watch what it looks like when defenses swarm to the ball. They were everywhere. I think this was the first game Luke Kuechly was back after being out for a couple of times. Mm-hmm. At one point, he just, completely clotheslined Marshawn Lynch behind the line of scrimmage. And I was like, goodness, that's Marshawn Lynch. That's a guy that runs, that's beast mode. And, he just got tossed around like a rag doll.
Yeah,
it was impressive.
We talked about that game a good bit, and there's some cool 2015 content on the team's YouTube channel that you can circle back and see. But we talked about that game in particular. That was really the moment when that 2015 team really became kind of the heavy in the NFC, because that was right after Seattle's Super Bowl run a couple years in a row. They were the big dogs, and they were the team the Panthers couldn't get past. And that was really the game where they broke through the ceiling.
Yeah.
And that Panthers team became the guy that day.
I can see that because there were still some great offensive moments in this game. Cam had a big touchdown to Greg Olson. Mm-hmm. At one point, Seahawks had a little razzle-dazzle where Marshawn pitched it back to Russ, and he threw it from the logo to Ricardo Lockett in the end zone for a touchdown. Also interesting to watch this game and see big plays like that and think about the fact that Dave Canales was the wide receivers coach for that Seattle Seahawks team at the time.
And I think Dan Morgan was a pro personnel director for the Seattle Seahawks at that point in time, too.
But, yeah, just at one point, Ely almost took Russ's head off. I mean, defense was just all over the place for both of these teams. Again, this is one of those games where, I know they win because I know what the record was of that season, but I'm sitting there going, okay, they had to punt and go over 80 yards. There's just over 2 minutes left. Cam takes a sack with 1:20 left. They're at the logo. And I'm sitting there going, is this a Mandela effect where I thought they won this game and everybody thinks they won this game, but they actually lost it? Because then it's there's 37 seconds left. And I'm how? And I was literally sitting there thinking to myself, I think I even said it out loud, there's 37 seconds left. Did they know they win this game? Did they remember? How are they going to do it? And then I'm in the middle of that thought, and I go, oh, my God, Greg Olson is wide open in the end zone. Does Cam see that?
Him.
Does Cam see it? He's wide open. And, yeah, threw it to him, and they won the game.
That's right. Big play for Greg, one of many Greg Olson made. So the other cool thing about that game, and maybe they were a little sleepy coming down the stretch, because the fire alarm went off the night before the game in the team hotel. Somebody played a little prank on your Carolina Panthers on that trip, and fire alarms were going off middle of the night.
Who did it?
The world may never know. I'm not sure the culprit was ever apprehended, but that was one of the things that made that was kind of one of the subplots. Speaking of alarms, what time does your alarm go off in the morning?
Well, when we have our 9:10 meetings, it goes off around 7:45.
Okay, 7:45.
Why?
Well, I was just kind of curious. We live very different lives, me and her.
The other day, again, talking about J.J. Jansen, I came in on a Monday. I come in a little later on Mondays, and I think he made I may have told y'all this, he made the joke, well, I'm leaving. And I was like, well, I'm just gotten here. And he said, why did you just get here? And I said, because unlike Darin Gant, I don't wake up at the crack of dawn.
That's right. That alarm hits at what time? 5:30 in the morning.
Why?
Sometimes on the
Why?
weekends I'll sleep in till 7 or so because I'm an old man. But anyway, we've got a lot to get to the rest of the week. So keep it locked on Panthers.com. A lot of cool stuff coming your way. Some cool stuff coming your way on the YouTube channel. Panthers Blueprint, the rookie edition, is going to be there. We got all kinds of cool behind-the-scenes nuggets from this rookie class, and those guys are all playing well. That was another one of the things about the Dolphins game. All those rookies were really contributing, really doing their part. And so it's going to be cool to look at Blueprint this weekend and kind of get that idea of how their progress is coming. So all kind of cool behind-the-scenes footage. Check it out on the YouTube channel. Keep it locked on Panthers.com. Thanks for joining us on another perfect fall afternoon episode of the Happy Half Hour. I assume it will not be the last one. So thanks to Cassie. Thanks to our friends at Deep Eddy. Chuck the Ducks here doing his part as always. I'm Darin Gant. We will see you on Monday breaking down a game against the Dallas Cowboys.